So today I want to explain to you how real estate is actually as cheap as it has been in over 50 years. And already you're frustrated, you're rolling your eyes, that doesn't make sense. What am I even talking about? Because obviously we've had a ton of inflation. And you're thinking about things like mortgage rates and home price, both of those being very high, and you're not wrong. And the big kicker is that obviously your wages have not kept up with asset values and home prices. So it is expensive. But the problem with inflation is it makes everything confusing. So first off, you have to understand that when we have massive amounts of inflation, number one, erodes the real value of your salary. You don't have as much buying power. It erodes debt and it increases asset prices. So the net effect is that inflation can mask or obscure the real, true, intrinsic value of an asset. So if you want to see the real value of an asset, you have to look at the value in something outside of the fiat currency, or in this case, the US dollar. So what would that be? We would need something that cannot be highly controlled by the government and just printed in whatever quantity they want, like they can do the dollar. So we would need to look at the price of real estate in ounces of gold. Now, why gold? Brief history on gold. We go back 2,000 years, you've got the wise men bringing gifts of gold to Jesus and his family. It was money back then. It's been money since then. Every country in the world accepts gold as a legit and preferred form of money. The United States used to back their currency with gold until 1971. And ultimately, it's very hard to increase the supply of gold. You got to get out of the ground. It's hard to do that. And there's not a huge amount of it. So let's look at the price of the median home in the United States today, which today is $405,000. In ounces of gold. So first of all, let me give you some context. If we go back to 1980, which was when all the boomers bought houses, all the people that you're upset with and you feel like are unfair, when they bought their homes, the median home value in 1980 cost 105 ounces of gold. If you fast forward to 2001, over 20 years later, the median home cost 638 ounces of gold. So there's kind of our range. Today, the median home, like I said, is $405,000. If you were to pay for that in ounces of gold, it would cost you 86 ounces of gold. So what that means, if we strip away the confusion of inflation and all the smoke and mirrors, is that the real, true, intrinsic value of a home relative to hard money like gold is cheaper than it was in 1980. And if we zoom out and look at what happened from 1980 to about 2007, the housing market in the US went on a 27-year bull run, and the home price increased 260%. So on some level, while it's easy to gripe and complain about the baby boomers, in terms of real value, you can go get not just the same deal that they got in 1980, but a better deal, because it's actually cheaper, according to hard money, to buy a home today than it was for them in the 1980s. And we all know how that worked out for the boomers. We've all seen their asset growth over the past couple decades. The price of a home in gold is suggesting that real estate is having a fire sale. Let's look a little bit deeper into this. Part of the reason for this is because in the 80s, they had really high interest rates. Today, we're having high interest rates as well. Not as high as they had in the 80s, but in both cases, interest rates suppress home prices. Home prices probably should, in dollars, should be significantly higher than they are today. And I know that's hard to comprehend, but based on the amount of inflation we've had, they really should be higher. And honestly, given the fact that in 2022, we went to 7% and then 8% after that, and we've hung around 7%, we're just now getting to 6% at the filming of this video, home prices should have been crushed by that. Home prices should probably be down 20% or more, but they're not. So while I do think you have an opportunity to go have a great outcome in real estate, just like the boomers did 50 plus years ago, I will also tell you that it is harder to buy a house today than it was in 1980. The main reason why is because of the income to home price ratio. In the 1980s, the median home price was about 3x a household income. Today, it's closer to 6x. That's a very important metric, and that alone says it's much harder to get a house today than it was previously. Why is that happening? Well, compared to the 80s, we just have a lot more money in circulation, which is called M2. We just have much higher inflation than they had. The other big factor that they didn't have as much in the 80s is a supply constraint. There are simply not enough homes and not enough supply today relative to the amount of people that want to be in homes. And in the 1980s, There was just not a supply issue. And then the third reason that I've already alluded to is wages are a big issue. Wages lag after we have a whole bunch of inflation. It takes a while for wages to kind of catch up to where everything makes sense again. So is it harder to go get a house today than it was in the 80s? Yes, but you need to keep in mind that gold is telling us that real estate is as cheap as it has been in over 50 years. So what does that suggest? It suggests that real estate prices are not going to go down. And it suggests that if mortgage rates come down, real estate's gonna go up. I don't think it makes sense to wait, and I'm not seeing any data that suggests home prices are gonna go down or that it makes sense to wait. So if you take anything away from this video, just understand that real estate looks and feels expensive, and it is because everything is because of how much inflation we've had. But in reality, priced according to gold, real estate is as cheap as it's been in over 50 years. Maybe you should figure out how to go buy a house this year. Do not wait. It is not too late. The first thing you should do is talk to a realtor or mortgage lender. If you don't have someone that's a pro that you trust, reach out to me and I'll help you find somebody. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it makes you think, and I'll see you on the next one.